Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Taylor Jones. And do you have any idea what time it is? Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Taylor Jones, and I welcome you back to my YouTube channel, TC Jones Edits. And right now, this is the fifth episode of, the long-awaited episode of Cold Man's Winter. And for right now, I want to talk about something important. Because for those that didn't check out my latest video, the recital of Martin Luther King's final speech, I've been to the mountaintop. Don't worry, the link will be in the description bar down below. And actually, it's not going to be in the description bar down below. It will be for the next episode, so don't you worry, because this episode is going to be different. Because for this episode, I want to talk about something important that we all heard from PSAs from back in the day, and it's still required until this day. And for those that don't know what I'm talking about safe sex. And for those that are wondering, why are you going to talk about safe sex? Like, why is that a big deal? Because HIV/AIDS is never dead yet. It was never dead. And it may have died down, but it's still important. And to prove it to you is based on another story I tell. So please bear with me when I tell the story. Because this story has something to do with an individual named John. No, not John. Tom. And he was in mad love with Jubilee. So the story goes like this. Summer 1994. Well, okay, screw that. Let me rephrase that. This took place in May of 1994, and there was an 18-year-old young man, fresh out of high school by the name of Tom. And he had been known for being a positive role model, a good influence for his hometown. And if I had to come up with a hometown name, and besides, the story is fictional, but it's supposed to be true at the same time, based on how I see and how I announce this story, how I tell it. He lives in a city called Mustard. It's funny that I made up a city name, but just bear with me, okay? It's hard to speak, and that really sucks, and I got to work on that. So forgive me for rambling. So in Mustard, California, May of 1994, fresh out of Mustard High, Tom, he was getting prepared to enjoy his summer, but at the same time prepare for going to school. And the school choice that he wanted to go to was, of course, UCLA, since he lives in California. But things started to go completely downhill. But I'm going to save that for later on. Because in the beginning, when he was 10 years old, there was a new girl at the time. A new girl from Indiana that moved to California with her family. And her name was Jubilee. She and Tom were actually classmates when they first met each other, both 10 years old, but Jubilee was born in March, while Tom was born in April. They actually had the same dream, the same goals, to go to college at UCLA to find a relationship, find someone to fall in love with. And unfortunately, they started falling in love from going to church together, to going to movies when they got older. At 13, they started dating, and they always go to their to each other's families dinner. Jubilee's family wanted to meet Tom. Tom's family wanted to meet Jubilee, and it was all good and dandy. But while the 80s were coming to an end, things were starting to get out of hand. And at that time, the HIV/AIDS pandemic was taking place, and it really, really started to make the city of Mustard uncomfortable. But what Tom didn't know is that everybody got involved. Some individuals got involved having sex, and some did it without a condom, and it really wasn't like that. Because in Tom's mind, he wanted to stay out of harm's way and wait till it was the right time. And according to reading his Bible on a daily basis, and with the love and support, faithful support from his grandmother Lucy and his uncle Louis, they actually told him that at some point, like, they give him some ideas of how not to get caught up in the so-called HIV/AIDS pandemic, the epidemic at the time. And he paid very close attention. Every single television commercial he sees, one has to be a PSA from celebrities. And like one PSA, there was, "This is your brain on drugs." But the HIV/AIDS epidemic, the HIV/AIDS PSA started opening Tom's eyes, like, no way. So in his mind, as a Christian, he actually made up his mind to abstain, stay away from the so-called lustful activity. Wait until he finds a partner. But the right time was when he gets married. So he didn't want to lose his virginity. He just wanted to stay loyal and care for Jubilee as long as they are in the right state of mind and get along. So throughout high school, Mustard High, from 1991 to 1995, Jubilee and Tom, they made sure to stay out of harm's way, especially when it comes to falling in love, but they had to play it smoothly. So that means they didn't do French kissing. They didn't go too far with the kissing. It's just a kiss on the cheek from one of them, and then all of a sudden, when they turned 16, they started kissing on the lips. But they had to slow down, because AIDS was still taking place, and everybody, they were looking at them like, yo, what is they up to? Well, what they were up to is, like, they're showing how real love is meant to be done. And everybody didn't have a problem with it. The jocks, they were like, yo, man, Tom and Jubilee, man, that is dope. But some of them, others, they be hating, like, man, Tom, he too young for love. What the heck he and Jubilee got to do with this? What's love got to do with it? Man, it's crazy. But even in prom nights, school dances, all that, everybody know that they were meant to be, and one false move was supposed to slow them down. I mean, for instance, before Tom's uncle Luke passed away, Lewis passed away, forgive me. He actually gave him his 1986 Chevrolet Caprice wagon, station wagon. Like, wait, what? A station wagon? Of course, he was laughed at, and people were like, wait, is this your ride? And the girl's like, ew, how are we gonna get a date with that? How are we gonna take Jubilee out with that old wagon? He didn't care about the haters. He didn't care. He just kept his faith in God, and he was still loyal to Jubilee, to the fact that no matter how people start to look at him nor Jubilee, it didn't matter. They were still madly in love. They're trying to do it the right way. But unfortunately, there were times like strike three moments. Instead of strike one and strike two, there was an official strike three moment that happened. Now, this took place in June. June 94, after dating for around 10-ish type years, around 10-ish years, Jubilee, ever since she graduated high school, she wanted to do her own thing, live her own life. At the tender age of 18, though, now remember, almost everybody got involved with having sex for no good reason in the city of Mustard, from high school to grown years. Everybody that went to school with Tom and Jubilee, they started getting it on, like doing it. It's just wrong. But Tom was like, no, I ain't doing that. But then all of a sudden, Jubilee, who thinks she's old enough, 18, remember, 18 years old, she actually went too far. And she decided to call Tom and ask what he was doing on a Monday afternoon. And he's like, nothing. I was just chilling, and all at the same time, he got an awkward phone call from her, like it was the wrong time, because let's say it was 1 p.m. He had to come up to his family. He actually wanted to help Richard and Angela. That was Tom's little brother and sister. Now, his little brother and little sister, they had Bible studies along with Tom. And Tom, as a Christian, he knew what he was going for. Meanwhile, he had an older sister by the name of Latrice, and she's at UCLA at the time. She was about to become a senior when fall hit in 1994. She just got finished with her junior year, and she actually spent quality time with her family, especially when college semesters were over at the time. So she actually was proud to see what her little brother Tom was doing with their little brother and sister, Richard and Angela. And all of a sudden, after the Bible study incident took place, Tom had to go straight to Jubilee's house, which was like 5 blocks away. And he knocked on the door, and Jubilee opened it up. Come on in. So they went to the bedroom. Like, Jubilee wanted to tell him something. Matter of fact, he wanted him to stay in her bedroom because she had a surprise for him. A surprise for Tom. And he was like, he waited, and all of a sudden, when Jubilee appeared, when she, like, let's just say that, okay, she had a robe on, but she got dressed to something too lustful for Tom. Well, Tom, what do you think? Ugh, what in the world? Wait, are you serious? Oh yes, I'm serious. And but don't you think that your mom and don't you think you're too young? I mean, too no, I'm not. We fresh out of high school. Besides, mm, it's about that time. But we promised. Oh yeah, we promised all right. But I'm ready. Well, I'm not. So of course, Jubilee started to make a swift move on Tom. Like she's ready to have sex with him, but Tom was still against it because first off, they're not old enough. They're not married yet. Now wait a minute. Tom was like, no, wait a minute. Don't you know about your future? Shouldn't you wait till after we get married? Oh, I mean, man, I can't wait. Everybody else is doing it. Well, that's not true. I'm trying to focus on college, but we still in love with each other no matter what. Oh yeah, this is more than love. Oh no, this is more than love, baby. I'm ready. So yes, she was in her lingerie, pink lingerie. Her hair was down, and she was trying to do what shouldn't be done in the first place, causing Tom like, oh, enough. Are you out your mind, Jubilee? I'm telling you that now is not a right time. What happened to until when the day when we were supposed to get married, and all of a sudden, oh, is that how you feel? And then all of a sudden, she started to get hostile, like, get out of me. Just go. Oh, okay, fine. Well, Tom didn't hesitate after she said, just go. I thought you loved me. Tom would have answered like, well, I do. But instead, he just kept his mouth shut. And then all of a sudden, shoot, he just left. He knew it was wrong. He knew it was the wrong time. Because throughout the years of his life, there was one rock song performed by the late Meatloaf that stuck in his mind. Especially as a Christian, he agreed with Meatloaf. Especially when Meatloaf sung, I would do anything for love. Yes, I would do anything for love. I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. Tom would never have sex. But when Jubilee started to get hostile, like kicked him out of his house as if he was not man enough, well, let's just say that, oh, man. He came home and little brother Richard asked Tom, what happened? And Jubilee tried to have sex with me, and what? And you serious? Yes. But you're not supposed to have sex. I know, that's why I'm trying to avoid it. And all of a sudden, she get hostile and kick me out. But not only that, on that day, it was just weird. But the very next day, well, let's just say that it didn't take the very next day to put Tom in a big depression in the strike 3 moment. Matter of fact, he was ridiculed and humiliated for, dig this, it took place on a Monday afternoon. 4 weeks later, all heck was about to break loose. And that's when all of the folks, from fellow high school classmates to the police officer, the police got involved too. And yes, to make matters worse, his own family, Tom's own family, turned against him. Mostly his mom, dad, and Latrice, his older sister Latrice, insulting him, cussing him out like a sailor, yanking on his arms, like, especially when he gets man, Tom was screwed up. Everybody starting to vandalize his late Uncle Lewis's station wagon. Graffiti. And they said, sexless freak. Man, get some skins, man. Get some skins. What you so ashamed of? Everybody's getting it on. Why not you? Throwing tomatoes and boo, middle fingers being thrown. And everybody's imitating. Hey, look, I'm a Christian. I don't have sex with my girl Jubilee. And all of a sudden, the homeboys all around the street, everybody hated him, despised him. But the only people that didn't despise Tom was his little brother and sister, Angela and Richard. They're like, Tom, what's going on? And, hey, you stay away from that traitor. Mom, Dad, what is up with you guys? You heard what the parents said. Now move. Man, it never got any better. But all of a sudden, throughout the 4 weeks of being taunted, hated upon, like America's worst nightmare, more like Mustard's worst nightmare, Mustard California peed on Tom's legacy. His identity. To the fact that at that time, he was looking for a house on his own, especially when he was going to get ready to go to college. And due to the hardships that he had to face from a crowd that despised him for not having sex with Jubilee, what Tom didn't know is that Jubilee started telling lies, and everybody believed in her. How? Running her mouth. Look at all these rumors. And it's like the whole town of Mustard against one guy who was faithful enough to wait till marriage, and that he can't even escape it. Well, he tried to escape it by looking for a house to live in during his college sessions. And here we are, like, July just started. July of 94. Mustard, California was like going at a complete riot for a month now. And Tom, he went to a city that was like 30 minutes away from Mustard. As if he was this close to being in South Los Angeles. No, I'm not going to think about saying in South Los Angeles. Because as I would say, you can take the word central out of a city's name, referring to the U.S. government, California government, but you cannot take South Central LA out of my mouth. So he found a neighborhood around there. Okay, I'm just goofing off. But really, he found an apartment house around the city. And he found the person responsible that owned the apartment complexes. Tom did the right thing and asked questions and make sure that the apartment houses and the payments were not scams, not fake. And what made Tom happy is that for a one bedroom apartment, the rent was actually $475 a month. And he already had like let's say $10,000 in his savings. He has a vault full of money that he has that he has found from pennies to dollars. Man, that was a good move that he did. He saved up money throughout his lifetime. Ever since he was like, let's say he was around 5. And here we are, 13 years later, he got $10,000 saving money and never spent one dime. And he even started looking for some around the house items, like a mat says welcome, and like a poster that has something to do with God, as in God welcomes you. Bless this house, He went shopping for some decorations for his own apartment. It was $475 a month for the rent for a 1-bedroom apartment. And not to mention, when he came back from let's just say he lives and moved on to South Los Angeles, South Central. Even though it was a hood, he felt thankful for having a house on his own, staying out of harm's way. When he came back to Mustard, after passing this welcome to Mustard, California, Mustard city limits, the police started to get on his tail. Sirens, wailing. And of course, like I said, the police got involved, giving Tom a nightmare, to the fact that Tom had no other choice but to be their practice dummy. After getting pulled over by a black and white box Chevy with incandescent red and blue siren lights, there were 2 cops. The guy riding shotgun, he was silent, he was innocent. He's kind of like Tom, faithful but too quiet. And the other cop, he was like vulgar. He was tough. He asked for a license and registration. Tom decided to do that, to follow the rules, as if he was caught speeding. But instead, he became like another victim to being harassed. So while he was getting them license and registration, I've been looking for you. Is something wrong? So all of a sudden, after Tom said that, the cop who drives the police officer and started insulting him, he yanked him out. Just like Latrice, his mom and dad yanked Tom out of his bed and make a fool out of him. The cop made a fool out of him as well. Well, a couple punches to the gut, followed by hitting him in the back with the club, knocking him down. And then all of a sudden, he gets kicked. Tom gets kicked twice by the police officer who asked for his license and registration. Now remember, he drives the box Chevy police unit edition. He's the one that started getting on Tom's bad side. Like he was the well-known cop of Mustard that takes no shorts. To the fact that afterwards, he even peed on Tom's license. Take that, virgin. The silent police officer, the partner, he was so mad, but as a way of saying, but when he got inside, and I quote this, and it's kind of like quoting Tales from the Hood when the white cop told Clarence about not breaking the code. Those buttholes, those cycles, forgive me, them cycles are police officers. Don't break the code. But this is what he said. You see that? This is what happens when you let a virgin get in your way. Don't you ever forget that. And then they drove off. So Tom looked up to the sky and asked God, why is this happening to me? Why? Everybody from Mustard, they were doing the wild thing, except for Tom. After coming home with a little bit of blood and being bruised, Angela knocked on the door. But unfortunately, Latrice picked her up like, man, get the heck out of here. And then what happened? What do you suggest happened to Angela? She got a butt whooping for trying to provide for Tom. Now that was stupid. Not to mention, a lot of things got worse. After being beaten up by the police to being humiliated and not knowing Jubilee lied and ran her mouth about Tom, all because he refused to have sex with her. Everybody got involved doing the wild thing, and this is getting out of hand that Tom had no other choice but to rest it off. Now, this has been 4 weeks already, and here we are, early on a Tuesday morning, like, let's say around 3 o'clock, 3 p.m., 3 a.m., he had a nightmare. He's tossing and turning and still hurt from the blows that the police gave him, to the fact that he spotted he spotted himself with furious anger. He started driving the station wagon, driving all the way to Jubilee's house. He had a pistol, a 9mm pistol. He shot a couple rounds to the door to open up the door. Well, actually, he kicked in the door after shooting a couple times. Finds Miss You-Know-Who, the evil doer, in bed, yanks her out the bed, just like everybody in his family yanking him out of bed. Wake your punk tail up. And then all of a sudden, pushes her to the ground. She's rolling like, oh, hey, what is going on? And of course, in the nightmare, voices were echoed. This is the thanks I get. This is the thanks I get. And now you're going to have to suffer. So in the nightmare, Tom did some sinful deed that nobody wants to get involved. All because Jubilee ran her mouth and made the so-called being a virgin thing a bad thing. Because everybody in Mustard, California was having sex. But what they didn't know is that they were doing it unprotectively. No condom involved. They just got involved. Kiss, kiss, kiss. And man. So all of a sudden, when Tom pulled out, placed his gun like this, aiming for Jubilee's heart, the police helicopters shine its light bright, but he didn't buy that. He didn't buy it. He just continued to do what he did. A gunshot was heard, but before that, it's like, Tom, no! Jubilee got shot in the heart, bleeding on the ground. Meanwhile, Tom, unfazed by the helicopter lights shining bright as the sun, as Coolio once mentioned, drives off to the streets as if he was about to escape the entire city of Mustard. But unfortunately, the police officers that pulled him over in real life, they appeared in his nightmare. Box Chevy, black and white, incandescent red and blue lights, wailing. What now? The police started to get close to him. Driver, step out of the car with your hands on your head. Hands on his head? Oh, he came out all right. Tom came out of the car, the station wagon, and all of a sudden, the cop that drove the box Chevy and insulted him in real life, he gave him another punch to the gut. And then kick his butt onto the ground. And he wanted the shy cop, the silent cop, to come over. Gave the silent cop a gun. And Tom looking like, knowing this was not what the silent cop expected. Like, no way. And then the cop, who gave the silent cop a gun, had another gun. Do it, you sissy. Sissy double crosser. Calling him, in real word, he said it vulgar. Sissy. Sissy double crosser. In real life, he's saying, you sissy MF. And all of a sudden, the silent cop did what he was supposed to do. Otherwise, his life would have been on the line. And then the gunshot went off. And then all of a sudden, like in movies, when a gunshot goes off, boom, white light. A white background, like a flash. And this is what Tom did. I can't take Mustard anymore. I can't take this anymore. So he got out of bed, even though he didn't scream. He had to keep his indoor voice. So he got out of bed and he decided, you know what? Screw this. I can't take any more of this. I had a nightmare of me killing my ex-girlfriend and I never even broke up with her anyway. Oh my gosh. Oh, the heck with that. I gotta get out of here. I'm gonna go to that new apartment and live my life on my own. So from 3 to 3:30, he packed all of his belongings, grabbed all of his belongings, toothbrush, hair comb, hairbrush. Oh my gosh, he was tired of dealing with the bull crap. But instead, he carried all of his belongings that is needed. I mean, he didn't even bring his drawer. He didn't even bring his own bed. He didn't do that. The only thing he carried that belonged to his bed was no. He left it alone. He carried his own alarm clock. Man. He took all of his belongings except for the heavy loads, from the drawers to the dressers to the mattress. I mean, like the bed, cause he got enough materials that he needed in the new apartment. And since he signed the contract to live in the new apartments, he's gonna take full responsibilities for himself. He even took his own vault full of $10,000, his savings from his childhood to now, 18 years old, moved on to South Central Los Angeles. That way he can focus on his life. But what caused him to realize what the world has turned into, what Mustard, his so-called hometown, used to be before he became exiled. He became his own version of the prodigal son. So much for that. All he wanted to do was exactly stay abstinent until it was the right time. Jubilee claimed that being 18 and fresh out of high school was the right time, but it wasn't. All the homies, all the ladies turn against him. Ain't that a snitch? A snitch that gets stitches later on in his or her life. So much for that. Tom was like, no, screw that. I am out of here. I am out of here. But before he could walk out the door and take the car keys with him, he wrote a letter to his family. And especially for little Richard and little Angela to read. Because Latrice, she became a jerk. The mother and father, they became jerks. They started whooping their youngest children, all because their company for Tom. So much for them. But it's not over yet. After driving for a couple miles, I'm like, remember, 30 minutes from Mustard to South Central LA, he started hearing his grandmother's dying words, Grandmother Lucy. Now, she passed away in 1992. And she gave Tom some good advice. Like, at some point, some people are going to turn their backs on you. Your lover, your girlfriend will turn her back on you and start telling lies that make everybody want to take their side. I mean, especially when it comes to this so-called HIV/AIDS epidemic. You do the right thing and stay out of harm's way. Don't let her lust, her temptations get the best of you. Because this is a woman's scorn. I've been in this position because I'm a woman. And I know as a man, young man like yourself, you deserve better. And when things go wrong, You find a spot, you find a place away from it all. No more nightmares, no more heartaches, no more tears and pain. Because you move on, you get older, and you take care of business. Now that's heartbreaking. So, early Tuesday morning, around 4 a.m., Tom starts living in his new apartment in South Central Los Angeles. But when the morning came, when the sun rose, Tom finally got some good night's rest. Meanwhile, in Mustard, 8 a.m., Latrice up and at it. Yo, Tom, wake your dumb tail up. Tom! Double cross, I'ma kick that boy's butt. But little did she know, Tom is no longer around. Oh! Tom's mom and dad, Richard and Angie, heard Latrice screaming and like, hey, what's going on? Tom is gone. What? What happened? Even though Richard and Angela, they found a letter at the kitchen table. Mom, Dad, what do you want? I think I know why Tom left. It's this little, he wrote a letter. He wrote a letter. And not tell us. Why would he not tell us? Because Mom and Dad, you and Latrice started hating on him. And the letter reads, Dear Mom, Dad, Latrice, Angie, and Richard, I am no longer living in this house because of what went down for the entire month. If it wasn't for that nightmare I had, I wouldn't be here. And also, if it wasn't for being considered a sexless freak, I would not be able to stay close with Jubilee. I cannot believe what you have turned into. But particularly Mom, Dad, and Latrice. And to Richard and Angie, if you get this message, I want you to know that I am sorry for breaking your heart. But you were the only ones out of this family that I rely on the most, while the other three decided to consider me as a sellout, as much as the entire town of Mustard, California. And for that I say shame on you. Richard and Angela, make sure to keep God first, no matter what happens. But don't worry, I will be right back on your side again whenever this hatred towards me cools off, all because I never had sex with Jubilee in a godless city like Mustard. If you want me, you can find me at South Central Los Angeles, where I will be living on my own, preparing for UCLA without any interruptions nor foul languages and cops beating me up. I'm sorry, but you asked for this, except for Richard and Angela. I love you two more than you'll ever know. Sincerely, Tom. And after Richard read this, the mother and father started sitting down, reading the letter themselves, knowing that they were screwed up. And Latrice, on the other hand, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, what have I done? Oh gosh, no. Runs in her own room, breaks down and cries. Little Angela ran back to her room, started crying. And as for Richard, who read it, looks at the parents, frowns like, for shame, and walks in his room, slams the door behind him, but then realized, while he was scratching his head, he's like, wait a minute. Oh, I might as well get on my knees and pray. He prays for his brother's safety and guidance. He prayed for God to guide Tom to safety as he lives in South Central LA. And everybody else, they didn't give a dang about him at the time. They still didn't. Mostly Jubilee. But before all this crap went down, before the sunrise, when Tom was leaving, I remember this time when I told you about the welcome to Mustard. There was a sign that was on the opposite side of the sign, the welcome to Mustard sign, saying, now leaving Mustard. There were the two cops, the vulgar cop and the silent cop. They were watching Tom and see what he was about to do next. Like, as if he's asking for his own death wish. Tom actually had a glass Coke bottle, Coca-Cola. He drinks the first half of it, the first half of the soda, pours the other half on the ground as a way of saying, I pour it out for my innocence is no longer here. And then throws it at the now leaving Mustard, California. Shame on you, Mustard! Shame on you! And then all of a sudden, when he screamed after throwing the Coke bottle to the sign, the police sirens. Oh, screw them too! Oh, screw this! He runs into his vandalized deceased uncle's paddy wagon. No, Caprice wagon. Drives all the way to South Central Los Angeles. But instead, the silent cop had enough when he decided to stop the car. No way. I said, stop it, fool. Stop it, fool. What the heck is wrong with you? You just gonna let that coward get away? Well, he's not happy. Let him go. Leave him alone. You want to kill him? Go ahead. Well, not me. The silent cop finally lost his mind for a good reason. And for that matter, the madness is still not over yet, especially since Tom left Mustard, California for South Central LA. And on that note, I would like for y'all to stay tuned to more of the story. Next time there will be a conclusion, and there's more to it. Sometimes you gotta take some time off and think about how's it gonna turn out in the end. You know what I'm saying? So on that note, feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, especially for the Cold Man's Winter Season 3. Because for this episode, as Taylor Jones, let you know that the story is far from over. Consider this as a way of saying TBC, or to be continued.